You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome to episode 103 of Cards to the Moon, and this is indeed our last episode of season 2, and for this year, 2022. My name is Clark of 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com, and co-hosting with me, as always, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards, and John, who is Trade You at Recess on Instagram. All right, if you haven't listened to our Friday episode a few days ago, that's when we did our year in review episode, so be sure to check it out. For this last episode of the year, we'll be looking ahead instead, going over some of our hobby predictions for 2023. But before we get into that, off the top, I wanted to quickly get your thoughts on the Fanatics news, which actually came out earlier this month in December, that the company raised another $700 million in a new financing round led by private equity firm Clear Lake Capital. So this now puts Fanatics at a valuation of $31 billion. Wow. Yeah, big numbers. Jeez. So one report said Fanatics plans to use the new money to focus on potential merger and acquisition opportunities across its collectibles, betting, and gaming businesses. So thoughts on this news and any guesses on how Fanatics might use this money within the collectible space?
Man, I wouldn't know how this all unfolds, but I do know that it's a lot of coin, and it's, when you get into, sports betting, I mean, you're going hand in hand with Ripon now, and right. In a different form. Like it's still under the same umbrella is what I'm saying. Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy if you think about it and the potential and why Fanatics. I have no clue. I haven't studied Fanatics moves to make a conclusion of like how this is all going to unfold. But what I see is they obviously see opportunity, right? They see huge opportunity. They see, they're thinking long term with all this. So it has to be somewhat good for the hobby. I'm leaning towards in the direction just because it's just making it that much more viable with other markets, and with Fanatics going, after Topps, after Panini, they're constantly, monopolizing and trying to really run that market. $31 billion is a lot of coin in terms of its valuation. Like it's insane. That wasn't the case even a year ago, right? So it's like, I mean, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty big, I think. I think it's going to impact the hobby. Obviously hobbyists won't like it because any change to the hobby, is no good. But we'll see. Yeah. It's one of those things where, so far, all people have been doing is, dogging Fanatics for their quality control on uncentered Topps cards. So they figure that, they would figure that stuff out first, but I think that's the point. It's not to have all Gem Mint 10 cards come out of a pack. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Yeah.
I hear you.
Well, it looks like Panini's going to get bought out, and DraftKings is going to get bought out, and anything that is sports related is probably going to get bought out. Fanatics will just own it all. Oh, man.
They got the money.
Yeah, I mean, any news is, in a way, good news, I guess, at this point for the hobby. Would it impact the hobby? Yeah, I'm sure it would. But when you see this big amount of money, whether that money's actually going direct into the hobby or other ventures that Fanatics has, people like to see that. That gives, especially people that are more into the investing side of this hobby, it gives them a lot more confidence that this is something that is continually being evaluated by people that are smarter than us, and they're confident in it. And that gives the everyday Joe Schmo to be like, hey man, I think I'm confident in what I'm doing here. So it's probably all, as much as it may receive hate here and there, it's probably generally a good thing.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I like you guys. I have no idea what it's going to look like in terms of how they actually spend their money. But I mean, you said it before, right? Hyung and John, like ripping and sports betting almost kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of like cousins of each other.
Right.
You know, it's like gambling, you know, in different forms and different ways.
Nobody
And-
wanted to admit it.
Yeah.
yeah, that's right.
Now it's categorized as the same thing.
Yeah, now it's acceptable, and but you know, like because Fanatics is the overseeing both things now. You know, if they're really going into sports betting, and whether it's they buy a company like DraftKings or FanDuel or come up with their own platform. And they also have their collectibles division. I guess see some crossover if they're creative about it. You know, like they have the money to just experiment with different things. Like, you know, not saying this is gonna happen, but you know, if you guys ever been on FanDuel or DraftKings, I've played a few games. You know, you win cash prizes, but maybe a bonus prize is a pack of cards or a box of cards, or you know what I mean, like really seeing crossover from both divisions, and that kind of puts a profile on both sports betting and sports card collecting. So
I'd be interested to see how they handle kind of like the age restriction because of the gambling portion,
Sure.
but then the hobby with younger kids coming in, you know, and just not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it'd be interesting to see how they, you know, handle that in terms of how that all pans out, right? So
yeah, I think that's going to be a question that has to be asked and answered for sure. But I mean, currently, like most of the hobbyists are in their 30s and 40s, you know, with disposable income. So I'm sure that's not a priority.
Kids
but
these days, man, you know, you never know. They're
true.
You see their stack, you're just like, damn, that kid's packing.
Yeah.
Well, you look on those YouTube shows of live card shows, and the, you know, those 10, 11-year-old kids have a briefcase of like 4 or 5 figure cards.
Yeah, more power to you, man.
They're dealing and wheeling, and yeah, I love it. Love to see that. So, but yeah, it's certainly big news in the hobby space, just because Fanatics is involved. And for me, I think you guys mentioned it already too, that the fact that they're investing more money into the space is good news. You know, like despite the bear market that we're in, despite the state of the economy, there's opportunity. They see an opportunity, and they're essentially doubling down on in the space and building. While things are cheaper, certain things are cheaper to build, I'm sure right now because of 100%. The economy is down, right? So Fanatics is thinking ahead, probably thinking medium to long term as well. So that's what you like to see in the space as well. All right, we'll definitely keep an eye on this in 2023. You know, one thing for certain is Fanatics isn't slowing down, which again I think is good news for the hobby. All right, let's move on to hobby headlines. As we mentioned, we'll go over some hobby predictions for 2023 here, and or maybe something that you like to see in the hobby this coming year. All right, so I can get the ball rolling. So I think what I like to see, I'll start there, is that more athletes, more sporting professionals are going to get into the sports card space. Like, I think that would be really good for the hobby. I'm kind of seeing it slowly now. You know, they're you know, like the Blaze Jordans. You know, he's really into
Jordan
it.
Lawler's a big collector too. He's buying
Jordan Lawler?
Yeah, he's buying his own, and he's a big time player.
Sweet.
So
yeah, exactly. And I'm sure there's a few more examples I can't even think of off the top of my head. But you know, now that sports cards are becoming a bigger thing, the hobby is becoming bigger. Even professional athletes are getting wind of it, and you know, it's kind of cool to see their own cards, and to see their own, you know, faces on the product, and I think the more that they get involved, it'll bring a higher profile to the hobby in general. So that's what I would like to see: more athletes kind of ripping, more athletes showing. And oh man, I can't remember his name, but there was a football player. I'm gonna look it up while you guys speak. But there's a former NFL football player that just followed us on Cards to the Moon on Instagram.
Oh, nice.
And I think he's retired, or he's not playing anymore. And his profile just says, "I collect baseball and football cards now." So this is a former NFL player getting into the space. And I think there's one other person that's done that too. Actually, that was the Pokemon guy. Remember the former NFL linebacker.
Oh, that's
or
right.
uh,
Was he like
sold,
a kicker? Was he a kicker? No, anyways.
I don't think it was a kicker, but yeah, he sold like a really
That's
expensive
right.
Pokemon card, and all of a sudden he's not playing NFL anymore.
Right.
So people are just getting into sports cards. So like I think that all that stuff is good for the hobby. Just brings higher profile to the sports card space. We talked about this a bit in the Friday episode when we were talking about how we're addicted to ripping NFT packs. I think that's only going to get bigger. I don't know how big it's going to get in 2023 specifically, but I think it's just going to be a growing trend that we should probably look out for. And I think more and more people like you, John, you were just mentioning that was your first pack, are going to just experiment with it, and then they're going to find that it's a positive experience, and then it's just that's what it takes, right? Like one experience, one positive experience, and then you just build upon that. The technology gets better, work out the glitches, have it easy to sell your digital cards. Like I know there's a lot of glitches on the Panini site, but the Candy Digital site, it's actually really easy to post in their marketplace. And every time I rip open a pack of MLB cards on the Candy Digital site, I've been able to sell all of my cards easily. And that's one thing that's cool about NFT packs. I think the ease of use once the system or once the platform is really rolling, and then I think I think it's just is equally addicting to open digital packs. I think that's going to be a thing too.
I think putting like that, like big chases, like is key in that. And
for sure,
as people get more creative and see the potential of that, because it doesn't even have to be sports cards. Like if you think about it, it doesn't have to be just sports cards. It could be other stuff, crossover.
Right.
You could talk about, it could actually be physical assets too, like a jersey, signed jersey, like especially if Fanatics takes over and there's crossover and collectibles in that area, and that all dependent on where they want to go as a business. But I think the potential of what you just talked about is a lot bigger than what we can even perceive right now, is because there's so many moving parts that will dictate that outcome, and those moving parts have to kind of happen in order for us to kind of see the movement of it, right? Which it's inevitable.
Right.
I think so too. Yeah. And that's a really good point, Hyung, because like, I'm into NFTs, and I know NFTs has, there's people that are saying, oh, it was a fad because it's definitely taking a dump right now.
Right.
And, but I just believe in the technology, like it's going through its ups and downs like every other new technology out there. But there are other NFTs that I have where the utility is if you own a particular NFT, you get a certain experience. Like my VFriends NFT, for example, I have access to 2 more conferences that Gary V holds.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Just because I have the NFT. So we haven't seen that in the sports card space. Like to your point, if you rip open an NFT pack and you get a certain card, and that has a certain value because maybe it's a 1 of 1 or it's numbered to 50 or 75 or whatever it is. But having that card, having that NFT digital card also could give you a physical, like you mentioned, like, we're also going to send you a jersey, signed jersey. And if you submit a form or, like you prove ownership on the blockchain of that, right? And or like you can have access to an upcoming game, a ticket,
exactly.
Right? So there's so much potential for NFT cards, NFT packs that we haven't even scratched the surface on, right? And who knows in 2023, if the bear market continues, if the economy continues, maybe things get to that point slower. But I just think, like you said, I think it's inevitable. Like that's just the utility is going to be there, and people are going to jump on board once they see the benefits of it. Benefits of collecting these cards and seeing other people cash in on it. So I just think it's an inevitability for sure.
Yeah, the good learning lesson for Panini. I don't know if it was them that had the 30K bounty or if it was somebody else and they just kind of fell ass backwards into it. But I mean, if they happen to listen to our show and they see how we ended up adopting NFTs out of nowhere, they'll learn that for old heads like us, where we're used to physical cards, and then you try to get us into NFTs, And even if you try to lure us by, like Messi one of ones and like Luca one of ones, it's so cool and whatnot, it's still NFTs. Like it's still, the chase is still NFT. And that, to me, I leave that alone because that's a completely different world. But once you introduce 30K cash, like the chase is no longer an NFT. It's something that I can take away. Or the chase could be, you buy $300 worth and you get 3,000, I don't know, you get a bunch of Panini points where you can go online and pick out a hobby box or something, right? Like, I think if the return or the chase becomes something that can relate to us, like if you're a memorabilia collector, it relates to them. If I'm a card collector, it relates to something where I can get like actual physical cards as a chase. I think there's something they could learn from this in terms of getting non-NFT people to start adopting and to start trying it out and to like because we poked our heads into it and we had a good experience. Like, and all
because we're addicted to ripping.
And all it really took, I mean, it's not all it really took, but it was like a sort of like a non-NFT chase became, right? Well, actually, technically it is an NFT chase, but there was like an actual solid dollar value amount.
Cash incentive.
Exactly. So, and that made us try it and then we enjoyed it, right? So it's kind of like the whole, if you guys know, like McDonald's, when McDonald's started to compete for coffee, they said, we trust in the product. We just need people to try it. So they just gave it away for free every Tuesday for 2 years straight or whatever they did as a marketing component. And look at how many people have adopted McDonald's. I don't know about in the States, but I know here in Canada, like McDonald's coffee, it competes pretty strongly now from nowhere. Literally, like it used to be trash like 10, 15 years ago. And now for me, it's one of my favorite coffees, right? So
it worked. It worked on you.
Me.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear your point though. Nice. Any other hobby predictions?
Oh man, predictions.
Comeback of Tatis.
Or anything you'd like to see?
I like that.
50 bombs.
I like that.
The return of Tatis.
Oh. Yeah, I could see that. I hope, for the sake of everybody,
in this podcast. Those guys talked about Tatis a lot.
Yeah. Predictions. I'm gonna go. So I recently ended up picking up a Jackson Churio, a red sapphire PSA 10. Right, so it's a monster. It's non-auto though. Obviously, the autos are ridiculous. So
yeah,
I thought it was a very affordable price. So I had high hopes for Jackson Churio being a young stud, being one of a handful of people that play in the major leagues before they're 20 years old. So I'm expecting that he holds his own in terms of his expectation, because he ended up in AA as an 18-year-old last year. He struggled a bit towards the tail end, but he's 18 years old in AA. So he's going to be a AA, probably starter as a 19-year-old with a possibility to get called up. I know it's a long shot, but I'm going to say that happens, and, Jackson Churio somewhat lives up to the hype, because to me, he's more of a J-Rod type player that I see, like someone more polished. I mean, we had concerns with Wander Franco last year, and we addressed those concerns, and I don't see those same concerns in Jackson Churio or a stud like that. I think it's going to take time for him to truly reach his potential, but if he can make a splash in the big leagues at a young age, such as like 19, 20 years old, I think he's going to be he's going to get a lot of hobby love like he's doing right now. He's completely overpriced, which I agree. Right now, his auto, I think his first chromes, because they're from a different set, from a previous set, not in Bowman Chrome, I think kind of like those prices are pretty reasonable where it's the non-autos. Because people are chasing the hype still, right? It's still the new thing. Jackson Churio's first base was like way before in earlier sets in earlier releases. So I'm gonna say Jackson Churio gonna make a MLB debut as a 19-year-old, in Milwaukee.
I like that prediction. Very specific. And he's definitely the chase this year for sure.
He's definitely one of the chases, yeah. And I'm going to also say Jason Dominguez is going to have a monster year. That's another prediction. So the young studs, the studs that didn't really get love, right? I mean, Churio got love, but Dominguez kind of went through that little, but then he had a pretty decent season last year. I think he's going to be a monster this year.
Interesting. Wow. I like that bet.
Could be totally wrong.
These are hobby hot takes, hobby predictions.
I got no predictions, but I do have some what I would like to see. And for me, number one, I want to see these companies, and I don't know if we're going to see it this coming year, because we're still what, a year out until Fanatics fully takes over, right? Yeah. Print runs. Like I want to see print runs get controlled. I want to see products lessen. I am completely fine with Prism, Topps Chrome being limited. If that means prices of boxes are crazy and I can't even afford to buy it, I'm okay. As a hobbyist, I'm actually okay with that. I would rather see the main products be limited rather than seeing like ray waves and shimmers and fast break this, and like I'd rather see it be a lot more limited. So I would love to see that. I don't know if we're going to see it, but and for me, this is another wish list, and I don't think it's going to ever happen anytime soon. But please, no sticker autos and game used only. That's what I want to see. Please. I don't want to see relics where it's like the player touched it at an event and it's a relic, or sticker autos.
Oh. So my hobby prediction is that none of those things are going to happen in 2023. Definitely a wish list for you, and I'm sure a lot of other hobbyists. But yeah, the print runs and the sticker autos, it's just
Yeah, I guess I'm living in dream world, but
I'm sure, other people are hoping for the same thing. I'll make one more prediction. I think in terms of grading, I think SGC is going to really cement themselves as number 2 this coming year. I think Beckett's kind of a legacy company, and like a lot of legacy companies, they're just very slow to move, and you could see that happening this past year. Very slow, not adjusting fast enough, if at all. Yeah, and they just don't seem to see the urgency.
Like,
right?
if you really think about it, you bringing this up, it's like, okay, the card market just received the biggest boom in history, okay, over the last couple years. And a company that was the company decided to, you know what, we'll sit this one out. We'll take a timeout, guys, for the next 2-3 years because, we're doing our thing. Yeah. It's like, what? Like, this is the dance.
Yeah. Who is running Beckett? Like, seriously, that's totally true. That's
totally
true.
How long has it been since they said, here's the new slabs? Just kidding. That was like 6 months ago.
I used to
they said, just kidding, there's actually a real new slab coming out, and clearly there's nothing
happening. Yeah, we never heard anything from that, for sure.
No, because that was probably the real deal, and then they stopped.
It's just like disappeared again. But I probably used to sub like 50% to BGS, and I haven't subbed anything since. 0. And it's all gone to SGC and PSA. It's incredible. And some FCG, Yeah.
I mean, like, remember that Trae Young card that I was waiting for? Like, it took a year and a half for me to get it from Beckett. Like, we made fun of like PSA taking a long time, but it was my Beckett graded card that I submitted that took the longest to get back to me.
Crazy. Wow.
It was a 7.5. Like, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And, like, it's to the point where, like, I'm always looking for value with BGS True Gems. That's like a play that I like to go to over and over again. Yeah. But it's getting to the point where I'm kind of hesitant now to go after these BGS graded cards because, the value doesn't seem to be holding as good as like some of the SGC cards now. Like, you're beginning to see a flip of those two. You know what I mean?
Right.
And SGC still got a lot of work, but from what I've seen this past year with SGC, I've just been impressed at just trying new things. That the latest thing that they tried with the Bowman 2022 Chrome,
love
offering, that was a brilliant
Smart.
play.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Getting increasing their market share that way. I could see them doing more of that for other products and really just utilizing what they have and just using their speed and the slab and their just the brand awareness of their company now. Like it's just having high confidence with SGC. PSA will still probably be number one in 2023, but I could see SGC really making a play this coming year. So yeah,
Good one. I like it.
but Beckett, holy smokes!
Yeah.
Come on, they got it.
But because they're a legacy, and it wasn't there like a new CEO or somebody came in, right? That's gonna hopefully right their ship. They don't have, honestly, they don't have to do much. I don't feel to right the ship because their branding is still very strong. The presence of what their brand means to the hobby, it's still really, really strong. And most of the time, the bigger cards, like we said, some of those vintage bigger cards, like, PMGs, they're all in Beckett slabs. So the image of Beckett is not discount brand. It's not, obviously the image right now is they're getting crapped on pretty bad.
Right.
But in terms of what it means from like a prestige, from that sort of perspective, it's still pretty high. So they just got to make some tweaks, man. I don't know, man. Whoever's coming in, re-slab it, new slabs, put some 10s on there, no more 9.5s. Like they're gonna have to do something big, but they can come back. Like it's not gonna be as horrible or like as grueling as some may think for them to kind of come back and gain some of that, the market confidence back. But anyways,
They should just.
I don't even know why I'm rooting for BGS. I don't.
I will say the best
I like
thing for
Beckett.
Beckett. The best thing for Beckett though is I was in 401 Games, one of the card stores, and one of the great things is reading a Beckett. I think that needs to be in
Beckett.
every bathroom, around, because that is one of the greatest reading materials. Like I'll still like go through that and sit, and read a Beckett, no matter what year. Just seeing prices, seeing the sets, seeing the
fun.
cards out. Yeah, it's awesome. Childhood memory, So it's like I always appreciate that because that's probably where their priority is for the last 3 years is printing Beckett monthly magazines. Because they forgot about grading. Yeah.
Just get back to publishing.
Yeah. They're busy publishing their monthly subscribers.
In another dying industry, magazines and print. I just thought about this before we go on to the next segment. I would hope that for 2023, this makes total common sense that sports cards will just be really present in like baseball stadiums. Do you know what I mean? Like not just jersey sales, not just like concession stands, but it just makes sense for the hobby for sports cards to be rooted in people that go see baseball games. Why not, right? So I think there's potential synergy that can be there. So hopefully for 2023, next time we go to the Rogers Center to see our hometown Jays, I could also rip open a pack, buy a pack, rip it open.
That'd be sick,
and just enjoy it while watching the game. I think that's no-brainer for me.
Oh, you reminded me. I did think of a prediction, and now I thought of it again. 2023, I think we've seen corrections across sports and players. Right. I think in 2023, we're going to see a big correction in wax and wax pricing.
Up
I
or
feel
down?
like it's going to down.
Correction.
I think wax is going to come down big time. Because I'm even shocked when I look at basketball pricing and stuff now. Wax has come down just like everything else.
Yeah.
But how it still continues to stay pretty strong. Like I think when the going was good 24 months ago, ripping open like a $200-$300 box of wax, it made sense because you'd get whatever Luis Robert or Bo Bichette
Sure.
base cards, and they sell for $40 raw, and Bo Bichette sells for 15 raw, and Gavin Lux sells for 10 raw. So even out of just the base cards, without even talking hits yet, you've made up like 25% of the box in value.
Right.
And then you're hoping for the hits on top, right? So in terms of like ROI, all of that stuff, chasing some of these boxes made sense. But these days, you open a $300-$400 box, or something in basketballs, like we talked about how optic hollows are like worth nothing now.
Right.
But basketball hobby box optic is like $1,200 or whatever the cost is, or in Canadian dollars. And if you get an optic hollow, which would be a big hit of one of the big boys, and it's like $60 raw, like, that would be your big hit, and all the rest of the cards are junk. I think, all the cards that we're opening, if you're not getting a monster hit, you're like, you may not even make back $20, right? So I think
It's true.
at some point, I know that we got so many degenerates out there that continue to pay the money for the wax prices, but at some point, this correction has to happen, because when the ROI is that horrible, people are going to run out of money, and I think it's just inevitable that it's going to correct, and you're going to see like blasters not selling for $50 anymore. You're going to see sales happening at Walmarts and hobby stores. So that's going to be I think the wax correction is going to be my prediction for 2020.
I like that. I hope so. Then I could buy
Yeah,
some.
seriously.
Then we could rip some more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, it'd be fun to rip, like let's say something meaningless like stadium.
$90, not 180.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
$90.
Yeah.
$85. Like, then it's fun because you're like, okay, this is like, these cards are awesome. You might get like an auto, even if it's like a Reese Hoskins auto, but you open an $80 box of cards, you're like, that's so cool, like Reese Hoskins. But when you open up like a $600 box, you're like, oh, Reese Hoskins auto. What is this trash? Like, the disappointment is, so.
Hey, I like Reese Hoskins, all right? I think he follows my account on 5 Card Guys.
That's true.
Reese, I love Reese, okay?
Oh, sorry, Reese.
That
if
is
you're listening.
John Trade You at Reese's is just absolutely just burying you.
Yeah, don't follow Trade You at Recess because he has something against you. But
it's all good. It's only in the $90 boxes. He'll be excited.
But that's so true. I was gonna like buy a stadium club for myself for Christmas, and then I see that's like $170 Canadian, and then I'm like going on YouTube. I'm like, okay, let's see what you can get. Like seriously, some of these guys are hitting $3 auto cards, of nobodies, like just like bench players. Like it's kind of the to your point, John. Some of the hits are just ridiculous for what you're paying in wax. So definitely, I hope it's adjusted accordingly in 2023. Let me leave you with this question, guys. The big question really for 2023 is, what's the market going to be like? Of course, we can't predict the future. 2022 was a bear market throughout most of it, and we saw huge corrections, kind of what you're touching on, John. But in 2023, do you think what's your gut say? More of the same, and then 2024 is the year, or do you think we start to see a rise?
I think late 2023 we're gonna experience kind of like that ultimate dip, to be honest. So I think we have a little more to go, because I believe we're going to see it in real estate and pretty much every single asset class, beyond markets, right? It's just the cycles of the recession, and there's going to be great buying opportunities. Like we said, we talked about this, especially with the timing of the seasons. I think there's going to be great buying periods this summer, the spring, the summer with football and basketball, and then there's going to be great buying period next off season in baseball too as well, right? So I think we're in for a deeper correction, and both ways. Like I said, there's some slabs that are, I think, really undervalued. So even those that are undervalued get corrected in a positive way in a correction, right? So for me, it's there are opportunities there, but like we're talking, and people are selling for this reason. So it's like you have more sellers than buyers, and that basically literally tanks the market, and we're going to continue to see that because people want to be liquid for 2023. So I think there's going to be a huge buying period all year, so it's just be ready to make those moves. Like for me, that Jackson Churio made sense in terms of that purchase. because I feel like, that card could potentially spike up with the hype of if he does make the big leagues, right?
Sure.
So it's like, wait, I'm actually strategically playing something out. Whereas it's not like, okay, we'll see where this goes and the price, because I think in general you're just gonna see a bear market.
Right. That makes sense for sure.
Right. Yeah, I'm with. I'm with Hyung. This is by no means an indication of where the hobby is going, but it will certainly follow what's happening in real world, the economy, right? So there's no question in 2023, people's wallets are going to be tightening. Disposable income is going to be at a minimum. So things like sports cards and some of these luxuries that we used to have in the past, I think is not going to be at the forefront. So it'll certainly take a hit, but I think Hyung is right in that if you are in the fortunate position to have some great disposable income in this upcoming year, there will be people who are unfortunately in desperate situations that may need to sell things that they don't want to sell. And opportunities like this will come up. And this is how the rich get richer when you talk about real estate and other when we're talking about bigger market stuff. So
Right.
In the same way, I think you can apply those theories onto the hobby. So will we see a boom? Will we see a recovery? That's probably a little bit tougher to predict, but maybe towards the end of the year, like Hyung said. But we'll see. Like, I think what happened because of COVID, they were all drastic, right? There was a drastic measure in how they handled COVID, and there's been now a drastic measure of how they're trying to handle inflation. So I feel like something, the cause and effect, there might be something more drastic this season, whether it's going to be a recession or like a big bounce back or something. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's going to be a sweep, I guess, in terms of what we think is going to happen in terms of the general economy and with the hobby. But I'll say this, like, I think this might be the last year, 2023, where you could get a Grail card. Like, it's going to be a really good opportunity. I'm always looking to invest in a bigger card, and you could be patient right now because I think you'll have all of next year to just kind of time it as best as you can in terms of like seeing the dips go further. And then once you get to that level where you're comfortable in buying, I think there'll be some of those opportunities for some of the Grail cards that you have on your list. And so I'm looking forward to 2023 for that reason. Everything else is like, with our podcast, with all our different businesses that we have, it's just a building year, right? Like, I think this is the best time to build, and I'm looking forward to that as well. Like, you just got to put your head down and work.
1000%. And for me, like, I agree with you, Clark, being an entrepreneur, doing this full time, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, whatever hours I put into my, craft and stuff like that. Like, I encourage people to not rely on, obviously, going against the grain in a recession, but these are the best opportunities to really invest in yourself, right? And whatever it is, whether it's hobby related or not, it's like if you're serious about, doing something, not necessarily all that you're passionate about, that you have to have this passion, because money basically equates time and somewhat freedom, right? So that's what you're trying to buy, a little bit of time so you could spend it in areas where you're passionate about. So it's like, if there's a time, I think within the next year, on top of what you said, Clark, it's a time where it's opportunity. It's during recessions, this is where great companies are built. These are where new ideas come up, because the way they did the old stuff, it's not worth the loss. So there's no really, I guess, sustainability in those businesses that all kind of like just left. It's because they can't sustain that hit anymore. So opportunities come in waves. So this is where the next wave of, opportunity comes, and those that are ready and willing to take that risk usually, are pretty successful during a recession.
Yeah, totally agree. So yeah, not all, doom and gloom for 2023. There's always opportunities even during these times. So we'll see how it plays out. But one thing I know for sure, we'll be with you with this podcast. So tune in week after week, and And we'll just kind of cover the news, especially in the hobby, and just looking forward to getting more involved in this space, and hopefully people will join us for the ride. All right, with that, let's move on to our next segment. And we joked that this next segment might be a quick one, or it'll be 15 minutes of silence, as I believe John said last week. This segment is called Right On. It's the opposite of our Dead Wrong segment we did last week, where we discussed the predictions we got wrong in the hobby this past year. For this segment, we're actually talking about things we got right. Okay, so to be fair, it was a pretty tough year in the hobby with this bear market, so I'm sure there were a lot of misses from a bunch of people in the hobby, including us, but hey, we got some right. Okay, so I can start because this might be my only good one for 2022, and his name is Aaron Judge. All right,
good one.
So that was my best one that I predicted. I've talked about this in previous episodes, so I'm not gonna go into detail, but once again, I told John, I'm going to get Aaron Judge at the Sports Card Expo that we're in this past summer. I'm like, I think he's got a shot, 60 plus. If it goes that way, things are going to be great. Things are going to look really good, even in this bear market. And sure enough, he hits 63, right? So
crazy.
So yeah, I'm going to pat myself on the back. The only thing I didn't do was sell at the peak. Yeah. So I still made a profit, but not as much as I would like. And if I kept my Bo Bichette and my Luis Robert that I traded it for, I would definitely lost money. So I'm happy with my bet on Aaron Judge. So that's my one thing I definitely got right for 2022.
Nice.
How about you guys?
I didn't.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, okay, I'll go first because mine is short and sweet. I didn't make too many pickups in the past year, but early on, I think I look back on some of the things that I picked up, and this was the one card that had a positive during a year where everything was going down. And funny enough, it was golf.
Huh.
The Rory McIlroy PMG. I just kind of like jumped on the PMG train.
Yeah.
And this was when we were like way back earlier on. We were talking about maybe golf's got something. And I start to look into it. I was like, hey, I'd love to own a PMG. And they're all really unaffordable. And I like golf and I like Rory.
Yeah.
It seems right. So I went after a PMG and I picked up a BGS 9 with really good subs. It's 0.5 away from being a 9.5 min gem. And I think I paid just over 900. And the last one recently sold for like 1950-ish.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, nice play.
So I haven't sold it, but I'm hoping to I don't know what I want to do with it yet. Like I still love the card, so I'm still enjoying it, but it may have to become a bargaining chip for, like you said, Clark, in 2023. It might be Grail season hunting, so that would probably have to be one of the chips that I need to use, because obviously my Tatis chips are completely gone. So I'll need to maybe lean on that one. But that was the one card that did anything positive for me.
Nice. Hey, Return of Tatis, remember?
Yeah, Return of Tatis, 2023, baby.
For me, I think during the early part of the year, we talked about what I thought the market was gonna do and the reason why I was liquidating and doing my daily auctions, right? So part of that was I liquidated a boatload of useless slabs, to be honest, because I had a feeling the market was gonna take an absolute dump with the economy, and that I probably sold about $150,000 worth of slabs in the span of 4 months during that period. So that right now, if I did that now, probably not even half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm glad I did that and cashed out where I could. And then I really like the Manny Machado play because that Machado lot that I was telling you about that I bought for $450 off just some random guy that I trusted, that he said he doesn't submit to grading, but I ended up having 2 refractors and 2 X-fractors that ended up PSA 10ing from that lot. And I bought the whole lot for $450, and it also included 15 base chromes. So those 4, I actually liquidated already, and they ended up selling for over 300 a piece. So I made about 1,200 US from just the X fractors and the PS and the refractors off that, and then that was for 450. So I pretty much 2.5x that, but then I still have the 15 base left.
Right.
That I believe that they all look great. I mean, I'm hoping 70-80% gem rate at that point, and then they're going for about 150 US, right? So that $450 play with about probably 15, maybe $300-400 worth of grading, net me out,
Brilliant.
close to 3K or in change, right? So
yeah, that was a really good play. No, but I like to, I think I mentioned this to you, Hyung, like when we were just hanging out at your studio space, that your liquidating move early this year was bang on, man.
Yeah. I'm glad I did that for sure. I kind of feel bad, but somebody's holding some bags, but that's the market, right? It's like
it's the market.
we're all bag holders at the end of the day. We're all nice people.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I did it to a lesser degree. Like I got rid of like maybe a quarter of my slabs, selling at losses. But like if I sold it now, like you said, it'll be worth maybe 50% of what I got before. So yeah, yep. So yeah, see, we weren't all dead wrong about everything in 2022. One thing I also mentioned here before we go to our last weekly segment. I said this in one of our recent episodes where we're going over hobby hot takes. I think, Hyung, you were away for that episode, but if you remember, John, I said the soccer card market wasn't going to see an uptick even during the World Cup. And if you look at the card ladder index, it just went down for the last month and 2 months. So for me, part of that prediction was more like the state of the economy. I think also the bear market, it was just like, just bad timing for the World Cup to be happening at the end of the year. And like we were just talking about, you had to do everything early on in the year to get as much value from your cards. And I think it was just too much even for a world-class event like the World Cup.
And one of the best World Cups we've seen.
And one of the best,
filled with everything.
Didn't help, except for, some higher-end, middle to high-end Messi and Mbappe cards, of course, right? But everything else, you're not, I was hoping to, I'm like, before the World Cup, I'm like, I got my national landmarks, Heung-min Son cards. I'm like, if someone's willing to pay double, I'm like, okay, it's not even worth what I paid for. I'm like, I guess I'm holding this till he does something in Tottenham. So so it didn't work out for me that way. But the soccer card market, the World Cup didn't help it at all. And I think I mentioned it before in that previous episode where I believe the soccer card market will only go up if there are more American collectors into soccer, and it doesn't matter that it's a world game, and it's a popular game throughout the world. They'd rather spend it on other things, jerseys and things like that, rather than sports card at this point. And I think the hobby right now, at least, is, most of the collectors are in the US. Most of the collectors that spend real money are still in the States. And if they're not behind soccer like they are with the other major sports, then I think the growth is limited. So that being said, 2026 is in North America, US, Canada, Mexico. I think there's a shot for soccer to really get some steam. So, it's going to be a mid to long-term play for me if you're into soccer cards.
Right. What do you guys think happens to F1 this year? Because remember that kind of prediction of where I talked about
tank.
Right?
I think it's tanking. Yeah.
You're going to the third season and the chase is again Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. There's none of this sort of rookie crop and there's nothing new that you're chasing, right? So
I think the 2020 market will hold though.
The original,
the
first edition,
right. Exactly.
I could see
that. That thing is so valuable on the other side, right. I think there's a lot of value in that. So
low print run,
the first of anything, and it's a low print run. That'll hold.
It's perfect.
But and like last year's or this past year's, that's not. going anywhere.
Yeah, even the upcoming, and yeah, man,
It's gonna be tough.
I didn't see. I know like 12 months ago when we went to card shows, I was trying to trade, and everyone was like, "You have F1?" I'm like, "No, because I don't want that."
Right.
You have F1? No, I don't want that. And then the most recent one we went to, I don't think I saw any F1.
Yeah.
It just got dumped.
I'm actually cracking my my Max Verstappen, like his second year Chrome, 1 of 1, the Black Ray Wave.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna crack it?
I think I'm gonna
No
crack
way.
it because
What's it graded now?
it's graded a
PSA?
BGS 8.5, so it got a 7 on the edges for some reason. I look closely, I don't see any edge damage, but obviously they seen something there.
Yeah.
I just feel like for the sake of it, it's a 1 of 1. I don't really care about what it comes
Right.
back. I'm expecting a PSA 7. I'd be happy about it. The whole point is one, like I don't like how BGS doesn't designate it as a 1 of 1. So unless you look at the back, you won't know, or unless you don't look at the back.
Oh, right.
So PSA designates it, and we talked about this earlier, John. Like a long time ago, this is a couple years ago. I had the Acuna foil board in a BGS lab, right? And I was saying, as much as I love like BGS, their cards don't look as good in the slab. I know people say I love the look of BGS. I'm not talking about the look of the slabs. I'm talking about the look of the card, right? So it's like, especially on that Acuna foil board on a PSA slab, that thing is popping. You see the foil board, you see every angle, it's shining. You do that and try to get a picture in BGS slabs, it looks dull always. So that's part
Right,
of the
because
reason.
you have that the
that
little
thick-
sleeve, the dull sleeve
Yeah.
in between, and
Yeah.
Right.
right.
So I'm hoping that it comes back somewhat decent, at least an 8. I don't want a 7 actually, but
Right.
I'm hoping stuff like that will hold its value. I think Max had a pretty crazy year again, so it's like over time I think people aren't gonna buy as much into the new release, which I hope they keep the print runs low, right, and just kind of like respect that side of the sport. That F1 is not a mainstream sport, right, at the end of the day, but it has value in certain collectors because people do love the sport, right? So it's like keeping that like balance of supply demand, making it kind of like that first year set is constant, right? I think you'll have a loyal fan base in F1 where they're constantly gonna sell out, in my opinion, as long as they don't overprint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Good point. Yep. So we'll wrap up this segment, and hopefully for 2023, we'll get more right than wrong than we did this past year. But we try our best. Let's wrap up this episode with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And if this is your first time tuning in, this last episode of 2022, this is a segment where we put up 2 cards or 2 players, and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right, and as usual, I'm going to ask Hyung to start things off.
All right. I've been on the prospect hype because all of the release we have Bowman Draft now releasing,
Right.
so Bowman Chrome starting to get no love. By the way, if you want to rip, I'm telling you, there's always value in Bowman Chrome HTAs. I think it's worth it. It's expensive as balls right now, but I think in the long run, like if you look at like everybody's chasing Bowman Draft right now, right? Because Jackson Holiday, he's like the biggest prospect with the Orioles and stuff. So that's getting all the hype now, and all the pricing on Bowman Chrome's dropping. So it's good to pick up singles. Good time to pick up singles from Bowman Chrome, and especially within the next, like I'd say, a couple months, because you'll skip you'll get it before the spring training hype, right? So, anyways, I've been on this Bowman Chrome run of just pick ones too. So I'm gonna stay with that theme of 2 young prospects that I think are gonna have a really good year next year. And these might be hot takes because they were the big studs in last year's rookie class that had a pretty disappointing year. Bobby Witt Jr., right? I think he's gonna have a really good year. He didn't even have that bad of a year, to be honest. And he had a really slow start. So his Bowman Chrome, his 2020 Bowman Chrome First Auto, PSA 10 sold for $10.75, right? So pop 184.
Not bad.
Versus the other guy that I think is going to have a big year is Wander Franco. So we got Wander Franco, his 2019 Bowman Chrome First Auto, PSA 10 sold for $16.30 at Pop 221. Is Bobby Witt the better investment, or the kind of like the number one kind of like rated, I guess, prospect upcoming that we expected of Wander Franco, the hype, the next pure hitter?
Those prices still seem a bit expensive to me.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, this is
Those are refractors.
No, these are base, man.
Base.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Wander Franco was so overpriced. It's like people don't understand that, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Johnny.
I like both. I think Wander is by far the safer pick, but I like the home run the home run ability of Bobby. I think that can stir up excitement, and I like his value versus Wander. It seems like Wander still has a bit more to come down. So of the two, as much as I want to pick Wander, I think Bobby Witt right now as a buy is a much better value buy of the two of them. So I'm going to go Bobby Witt.
I'm going to go with Bobby Witt as well. For me, it's a no-brainer. I think the value for Bobby Witt is there, just like John mentioned. I actually really like Wander Franco. Was it the beginning of last year? And I kind of wanted to pick him up because I thought his value was there. And then the hype train of Wander, kicked in, and then it just went, like to another level. And I was just too late on it. And looking at these prices, it's come down for sure from that hype, but I still think it's a bit high for what he has done so far and what he can accomplish. And I think in this market, I have a general rule for baseball players. If I want to do a quick flip, he's got to hit homers. And I think who can hit more homers, Bobby Witt or Wander Franco?
That's exactly it.
I'm siding with Bobby Witt for that reason.
Nice. I like the insight, boys, because I agree with you guys. And I was trying to make a point of I still think Wander Franco is way overpriced.
Yeah.
So it's like we talk about the year of correction continuing. So I suspect that to happen as well, but in both ways. If Bobby Witt does have that big year where he becomes an all-star and he starts putting up the numbers, that value could be way better than Wander's value. That still, no matter what numbers he put up, it's not gonna really make movement. If anything, it's gonna sit, sideways unless Wander does something crazy like wins a batting title or something. And even then, it might not even move the needle, because if the price was previously too high, it's gonna correct itself to the right price, right? So it was more of a let's see if you guys could spot the value, and you guys passed.
Yes.
Well, you know what? PSA has my Wander Franco Exquisite Collection RPA.
That's sick, yeah.
So
Sweet.
He's not that overvalued, right? Just kidding.
Not that card. Not that card in particular.
Not that card. Okay.
It's only his first chromes.
Number to 99. Yeah. All right. Good one. I like that, Johnny.
Nice. I'm actually going baseball too. I haven't done baseball in a while. I'm going to throw up strictly an investment question. So this is not a long-term, well, I guess you could think of it maybe long-term, but I'm thinking more of like a short-term play. If you had $1,000, which of these two purchases would you recommend? Soto's rookie 2018 Chrome Update Refractor number out of 250 BGS 95 Min Gem, just recently sold for just over $1,000. We'll call it $1,000, which I think is crazy. Or 2022 Topps Gold numbered out of 2022 Wander Franco PSA 10. Two of them, one recently sold for $500. So would you rather have two Wander Golds at $1,000, or would you rather get that Soto refractor as an investment moving forward?
Two Wander Golds and $1,000?
No, sorry. If you had $1,000.
Oh, if you had $1,000.
Would you rather spend it on two Wander Gold PSA 10s or the one BGS 95 Min Gem of Soto update refractor numbered out of 250.
Johnny, is this a question?
I know. Now that we set up the question before, I should have went first. But now that you guys already talked about Wander Franco, I feel like I know exactly.
No, but the $500 is the kind of like, oh, maybe. But then you realize, you know what? Tatis Golds are at $500. So we're
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I think I'm gonna go with the Soto. Yeah, for sure. That's a tough card to, pull the trigger in at $1,000. That's a steal. I'm in. That's a big card. So Soto for me.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me as well. I'm gonna bid 1,001 to beat Hyung for the Soto card, the refractor.
Yeah, I'm in though.
So I just believe in Soto as a player more than Wander Franco, as we just kind of discussed, and the value is there for me too for that kind of card.
Right. I do gotta say though, like the PSA 10 gold, the reason why I ended up using it, because it did surprise me for a Wander card. I think if you were to go into Wander before the season, I think it's something like a gold that could be the value buy over like the on the other hand, the Bowman base auto at $1,600. I feel like the gold is at a pretty low. Like, could it go to 300? Maybe. But I in terms of like if Wander does something special early on, some hype. I thought the gold. Anyways, with all that being said, I'm rambling, but it's gonna be.
You did make a good point though. I think his Bowman Chrome is overpriced, and it just shows you that Wander's flagship may not be too overpriced compared relatively. So it's like if I were to invest in a Wander, I'd probably go like a gold PSA 10 versus a Bowman Chrome, because
or search out like a Mother's Day or Father's Day or something.
Right? Yeah, exactly. A cheap paper that people kind of forget about, kind of like the rookie cards, right? Whereas the Bowman first Chromes are what everybody kind of goes after, right? And that's what I did with. I did really well with Acuna. I had Acuna's the sapphires, the white jerseys that I love because I thought his Bowman Chromes were too overpriced, right? And I did well with them because they're just at a lower price point, right? So I don't think it's that bad because there are good buying opportunities with Wander, I think, still, especially with his new releases that nobody wants right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Not as bad as you see about that.
Hyung saved me a bit. He crushed me and saved me at the same time.
That's what we do on this podcast. Okay, we'll wrap this up. Our final pick one of 2022. I'm going with two basketball guys. They were the chase in the 2019 set, I believe. Was it 2018 or 2019? Zion versus Ja. Going to return to this. It's weird. I looked up their Optic Holo, right? Their Optic Holo rookie card, PSA 10 for both. They're both going for 320, right? The same amount, and their pop count is relatively the same, 550, give or take 20 on either side. Okay, so they're both the same price, similar pop counts. Ja Morant Optic Holo PSA 10 or the Zion Williamson Optic Holo PSA 10.
I'm going Ja Morant for sure, 100%, for a couple reasons. I believe in, even though Ja's like, the way he plays, it kind of scares me in terms of injuries as well, because he's a explosive player and he's an all-out player. How does that look when he's 27, 28, 29, when his body ages a bit? So there are concerns with that, but from a card perspective, I think that his prism and his optic he looks like just a baller. Like, it's just a sick card in my opinion. Him dribbling, but it's just a front on angle, whereas Zion looks like he's kissing the freaking camera. So I can't stand that card. You know what I mean? He's like posing and like with the ball in his ear.
It's pretty close to his face, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, come on, like, clean it up. Like, you go from the prism, like, I'm Zion Williamson, like, I'm shooting 60% from the field goal, to like, just like this pose, so like, for me, there's that element of what card I like. So it's like I really like Ja. I was kind of on the earlier Ja train to begin with, so I'm sticking with Ja.
All right.
I'll add to your Ja comments. Like the concerns you have about Ja being like all out and possibly of injury. Like that is actually that is hypothetical for Ja in the future at his later ages. That is Zion right now, right? So like take AD for example. I think AD's prices went like down to the floor because they're like, okay, he's a great player, but he plays 40, 50 games a season. That's just what it is. He came back this season, and then the last 20 games, he's playing like the number one player in basketball, and people just start forgetting. Like they've kind of forgot that he's injury prone, and they're like, oh, 80's back. This is crazy. And boom, he gets injured again, right? So I think, as much as people may say these guys are equal or Zion is a bit more hyped right now, strictly for the fact of safety of your money, I think Zion could be a ticking time bomb. Like we forgot how injury prone he is, and right now he's balling out. He's doing amazing, and New Orleans is doing amazing. Next thing you know, he's gonna get plantar fasciitis, and he's gonna be out for 9 months, right? So
come on,
don't forget that stuff. So I think even safety wise, I like Ja. I like the pick to begin with, but it makes even more sense when you talk about safety and your money. So it's Ja.
Interesting. This is probably a trap, but I'm going Zion because whatever with the pose, but the for the price is the same price, similar pop count. The upside is there for Zion in the hobby. Like he's balling, and sure he could get injured, but end of the season, like Zion's price is going to go higher if everything stays the same for the end of this season. I guarantee Zion's going to be the better card in terms of value. So I'm willing to risk $300 to go with Zion this year, and hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully he doesn't pull out AD. So yeah, I'm going with Zion in this case. I was going to use Prism, but
if you use Prism, I would have maybe changed, but
really
I can't.
I thought it would be the opposite.
Because of the image, I just can't do it. Like. That image is brutal, bro.
I'm opposite.
There's images.
I'm opposite.
There's images Hyung just can't stand. The Matt Damon, Luka Doncic card.
Oh, come on, Panini. You basically brought in a janitor. Film that role. He looks like a janitor on a freaking Wednesday night.
Oh man, that's hilarious. No, but with the Panini Prism, the silver. I think Zion is back up to like 1250, right? And Jazz at 850. So for me, Ja Morant is the play. Like I'm going with Jazz. You would have gone with Zion just because of the image, even though it's $400 more.
Yeah, I can't do it.
No, for the Prism.
Oh, the Prism. No, like I just like the Prism a lot more than his optic. Is what I was saying. I would still go Ja.
Yeah,
Ja Silver's like the play for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just like I'm a big fan of the cards too. Like if it's a card that I don't like. Like that's the reason why I stayed off Luka Doncic Select Concourse. I think his courtside is freaking nasty. It's the nastiest card. I love his courtside. Every single parallel for it, right? Just the card looks so much different. It's an action shot, whereas let's not you guys know. Everybody agrees.
By the way, the Luka light blue that I always wanted, that I follow, the most recent one just a couple of days ago sold for $1,025.
Wow! Shoot.
Yeah.
You going in on that?
That's how much. This is the thing, man. Like I think Select is just.
I know.
I feel like Select is a dumpster fire right now. Like nobody wants it. Like look at it. It's numbered Luka color match, and it's sold for $1,000.
Go with the court side.
Courtside's still expensive though.
It is.
Yeah. Not even. I was actually thinking like Mosaic Blue or something like that. Something else.
Yeah.
I feel like now at this point I'm like just gonna stay away from Select completely. I don't know what to feel about Select, man.
This is what happens when you're like, oh, when it gets to a certain price, I'm gonna buy it, and then it gets to that price, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
and then when the hobby goes back up, you're like, damn it, I should have got this.
I should have bought it. I love Select. I've always wanted that card.
That'll be episode 300 when we when we remember this one.
Yeah, 2023 dead wrong.
All right, with that, let's end this episode of Cards to the Moon. That wraps up the year for us here on the pod. As always, thanks to all of you for tuning in throughout 2022, and we hope you'll stick with us in 2023, where we plan to bring you new episodes talking about the hobby we love, as well as more guests, more video content, and more giveaways. We hope you tell your friends about us, because the more the merrier. So thank you again from all of us here at Cards to the Moon. We wish all of you a happy new year and see you in 2023. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.